Welcome everyone to the Green Career Panel hosted by the Office of Sustainability and the Career Center at San Jose State University. Please note that we're recording this panel and will be available to view on the Sustainability website. My name is Rachel Blake. I'm a graduating senior from San Jose State University and currently the lead intern in content and communication at the Office of Sustainability. This Green Career Panel is an opportunity for students to have exposure to possible careers in sustainability after graduation, even if they're not an environmental studies major. Today we have a variety of panelists from water policy, energy in the City of San Jose and Regional Air Quality District. And we also have staff from the Career Center available to answer any questions that you students may have. The panelists will each have 5 minutes to share with us why sustainability, their career progression, and opportunities they have for students. After that portion is over, you're welcome to utilize the chat feature and you can send your questions to the host, Debbie, and I'll read the questions to the panelists. And after that, we'll have an option for you to join our panelists in different breakout rooms. So if you have a panelist that you maybe want to ask a one-on-one question with during the panel, you can message Debbie, the host, and she will make a note of which breakout room you would like to join at the end. Please note in the chat you would like to speak with. And please, throughout the panel, make sure that if you have any questions, you send them to Debbie in the chat as well. So we're going to start with Chad. Take it away.
Hi there. Thank you all for having us today. It's a pleasure to be asked to do this. I'm going to talk briefly about myself and my career, and then I prepared some slides to give a broader perspective. It might go a bit beyond. I'll start by saying I work for an organization called the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. It's one of the 35 air pollution control districts that exists around the state. Ours also works quite a bit on climate change, and I lead a climate change program called Climate Tech Finance that tries to use technology innovation to reduce greenhouse gases. So there are lots and lots of places to work in state and local government. I don't know all of them, but if you have some interest in that or want to know more about it, that's probably what my chat room could be good for. At my organization, we do have internships regularly. They tend to come out in cycles, and we just hired for our summer interns. We don't only do interns in the summer, but that's when we tend to have the greatest number of them. They're paid, and their pay rate is pretty good. I don't remember what it is quite off the top of my head. You can always contact our HR department, but looking on our website is a good way to go, and some of these things get posted online as well. We also hire people entry level out of college. It's a little harder to get those jobs, but we have jobs for inspectors who go out to facilities in the field. We have jobs in our communications department that occasionally become available. And we have community engagement job, to name a few, but rule makers, people who work in our planning departments, there's a whole lot of them. Why did I get into sustainability? I wanted to have a mission-driven career, and I saw this as a defining problem. And I think my understanding of it has evolved a lot with just my time in life. And ultimately what I've decided is, it's not so much that I think I can save the planet. And we know that there's not only one type of habitat that our planet will have, it's always changing. I think what I want to do is give humans the longest chance possible to live on the planet and ask as many interesting questions as they can. With a philosophical journey, I just want to buy us time to see how far our species can go. What about my education and career journey? It's a little eclectic. I started with an undergraduate degree in engineering, and then I started studying more public policy when I started graduate school, but I ended up then studying a lot of social science and management. I've worked for private sector consulting firms. I've worked in the nonprofit sector, including at universities, and now I'm doing public sector work. So I've been a consultant, I've been a researcher, I've been a college professor, and now I'm a civil servant and carbon manager. So I wanted to share a few slides, if I may, that maybe go a bit beyond that, because I think that telling you more about my particular agency is one way I could go, but I prepared some other things. So is it okay, Rachel, if I do this talk from the slides I had?
I'll share them right now for you.
Oh, thank you. So part of this is a little bit heady, and I'll acknowledge that, but it has some pragmatic points at the end. In my time working in the field, which first started off as environmental protection and sustainability is sort of a newer word. People use, resiliency's come up as a word. Now people think about regeneration as what the field should be really focused on. When I used to teach it, I would say sustainability has a lot of different endpoints, and this chart breaks it down into 8. I used to use it when I taught seniors, and I also taught it when I taught an intro to sustainability class. You can look at it later, but each one of these different colored wedges, to some extent, defines a different way of looking at sustainability as a problem, and to some extent, different career trajectories. So I'll just offer that as a starting point and encourage you to look at this if you want, and if you want to ask me about this in the chat room, that's fine too. Can we flip one slide forward? When we used to teach sustainability, when I did, and it's very common for us to focus on different physical compartments in the world, and I used to think in terms of like having some core knowledge about how these different systems works, and it's one of the things that this field uniquely brings into organizations, but a lot of organizations don't know how to think about it. So part of what we have as a challenge is figuring out how do we make these things visible to people and make them matter. So if I can flip one slide forward. Oh, well, that got completely garbled. So why don't we just skip it? Can we just go one more forward? Some of my colors are lost here. Sorry, it's so black and white. So part of what I did when I was a professor was think about different types of areas of specialization within sustainability and how that would lead to different career paths. So, and here I call them career starts, which I'll get to a point I have on the next slide. So if you happen to really like science and technology, then specializations could be something like you really want to work in ecology and environmental science, or you really like landscape science and management. So maybe that means you look more towards field science, or if you're working for an agency like mine, maybe you really like the idea of trying to work with people of compliance, which is what our inspectors do. You really kind of understand the way the physical systems work and you want to work in that area. Some of the others we thought about were design and innovation. I don't know enough about how you might combine this at San Jose State, but if you really like sort of the sustainability thinking and design concept, then maybe that would send you on a different path. Business management being another one, and then policy outreach and communication. So again, I offer this up for you to look at in more detail in the slide deck, and I'm happy to talk about it in a little more detail, but it's not, my point is that it's not one size fits all. And I recognize that my agency in the public sector and as a very science and engineering based organization probably fits most in the top tier, but increasingly we need all these different things, and trying to figure out how they articulate for a career is what I wanted to try to signal here as some understanding. And then if I can flip to the last one. I know I'm going kind of fast, but I'm trying to make sure I come in on time. When I used to talk with students, and they used to ask me how they should think about their career, the one thing I want to say, and somewhat in contrast to what I just said, is that your career path is largely defined retrospectively. It's good to have a plan. It's good to know what direction you're going to head, but the best thing you can do is be pragmatic. It sort of doesn't matter where you start. It matters where you go. I like to encourage people to think of the first 2 years that they enter the workforce as an extension of their education. You really don't know how many of these things play out, and the university can only show you so much. The Career Center you have is amazing. They put this together with the Office of Sustainability, and you'll hear from some of us what things look like from where we stand, but ultimately in the first 2 years, you'll see a bunch of more. And then when you're looking for jobs, it's easy sometimes to be on job boards, but I have to say networking is so valuable. It helps you get pulled out of a pile, and it helps you get a much better sense of what you might be going for. And I like the phrase that it's not who you know, it's who knows you when it comes to job searching. And then lastly, I just wanted to share a couple of thoughts. I don't know how on point they are, but at least the first one. But Maya Angelou has a quote, and I might be misquoting her a little bit here, but she says, people will forget what you say, but they will remember how you made them feel. And so when you're networking, really keep that in mind. Like what are you showing them about, like, what kind of person you want to be and how do they respond to it? And that that communication is really helpful for figuring out whether it's a good fit. And you should be thinking that too, even if you're pragmatically just taking the first job and thinking about what the first 2 years are. And I was asked recently why I work in sustainability, and I thought, well, didn't necessarily think that was the most interesting question. So I thought, well, what helps me stay in sustainability? And it would say optimism. This is a hard area to work in because you're trying to make change and you're trying to get people to pay attention to things that are hard to pay attention to and we've ignored for a long time. And being optimistic that we can get it right and continue to have that regenerate and animate you is really important. So I'll stop there. Thank you all. I'm happy to talk more about any of these things or about public sector work in my chat room.
Thank you so much, Chad. And now we're going to hand it over to Sarah. While we're setting up, think of any questions that you might have for the panelists or what breakout room you'd like to hit up after. And send that information over to Debbie, our host, via chat. Okay, Sarah, take it away.
Thanks, Rachel, and thanks everyone for putting this on and being creative during this time and allowing us to come together virtually. And Chad, I really liked your remarks, so thank you. My name is Sara Abdelaziz. I'm currently a regional manager in the Bay Area for a nonprofit called Rising Sun Center for Opportunity. So just to give you a basic overview of what we do, Rising Sun is a nonprofit that houses two different programs. The Climate Careers Program, which is the one that I represent and work for, pairs together two needs. Inequitability, is that how you pronounce that word? I actually was having trouble saying that word earlier today too, so let's pretend like I said it correctly. And people who want to make fixes in their homes to make them more energy and water efficient. So we actually hire on low-income youth around the ages of 15 to 24-ish, and we train them and pay them to go out in the community and make homes more environmentally sustainable. The service is for free for renters and homeowners, and the youth, which is the odd term that we use in the biz, but really we're just talking about people that are potentially your age. They get paid, which is always really nice. And they also learn about things like eco-literacy and professional development. So maybe some of you are environmental science majors, so you know a lot, but we cover a range of things from talking about climate change to food deserts to the water crisis to how all of these things kind of create a perfect storm. And you also walk away from the program with a professional portfolio. So we know that this is not the end of the road, but the beginning of the road for you. And our hope is to get you interested in clean economy jobs and help you take the next step. So that is the nonprofit about me a little bit. The way my kind of education path was totally windy, kind of Chad was describing how oftentimes it's not a straight road. I am the perfect snapshot of that. I got my undergrad in philosophy, and I got my master's in women's gender and sexuality studies. So I came into philosophy because I was like, man, the world is really messed up and I'm gonna figure out why. And I thought that philosophy would help me in answering that. I didn't exactly find it there, maybe some folks will, but what always awakened me from a really young age was my desire to see my surroundings reflect a better reality for people. And there was always a huge mismatch for me between what I would see, and I would see people working so hard and getting so little in return. And that kind of inequality, that existence made me upset. And so I did a lot of community organizing from a pretty young age. And that kind of led me into my master's. And there I was like, this is great. I was able to read about women and men as well, and non-binary people that had been earth-shattering shakers, revolutionaries in thought and in action. And It kind of helped me frame my ideas around empowering communities with some more nuance and sophistication. And one of the things that became clear to me was this environmental crisis was like this horrifying microscope onto all of these layers of inequity that we saw. And I had done work in, affordable housing. I had done work in communities of color. I had done work to raise the minimum wage. But to me, the climate change crisis was this billowing issue that was already affecting so many people, and that was just going to make everything more difficult. And so I realized I want to not only learn more about this, but I want to be engaged in that part of this fight. So I made a really conscious pivot to try and work in sustainability, and I sought out this field, even though I technically have no professional experience in the sustainability field. My background is not in STEM. And I was really determined that someone was going to open a door for me. And so I self-taught a good bit, and I also, I tried to be strategic and pragmatic about where I could fit in. I wasn't going to get a job as an environmental planner with no background, but I had tons of community organizing experience, and I was an educator. I worked as an adjunct professor. Chad worked as a professor as well. I worked as an adjunct professor for a few years. I worked as an educator in middle school classrooms and high school classrooms. And I thought, okay, I can go into the nonprofit world. So that is where I found myself. And the exciting thing to me about working at Rising Sun is I get to interface with people all over the environmental field. So I talk to environmental planners. I talk to people who work on air quality. I talk to city officials. I talk to tons of people. I talk to community groups that are working on food justice movements. And in that sense, I'm always able to learn and grow without having this formalized background. So I would say too, if you don't come from a STEM field, and it can be a little bit intimidating for you to get your foot in the door around issues like this, I relate, and I would love to talk to you about it. So again, my name is Sara Abdelaziz, and I'm with Rising Sun.
Thank you so much. Now we're going to shift over to Christoph. And while we're doing that, if you have any questions for the panelists, or you'd like to join any of these guys in a breakout room after, please feel free to shoot a message to our host Debbie in the chat. Okay, Christoph, take it away.
Okay, great to be here, everyone. Thanks so much for the opportunity. San Jose State Sustainability Office, Debbie, Rachel, and all your colleagues. Yeah, excited to be with you. And as you can probably tell by my background, I work for the Silicon Valley Leadership Group. It's a nonprofit public policy trade association. So that's a group of different members, primarily private sector employers, but also a fair amount of nonprofit entities like San Jose State, our members. What brings us all together are interest in a variety of policy issues, not just related to our bottom line, but the broader community benefit. So I'm part of the energy and environment team. It's 4 people total among an organization that overall is about 30 staff. Energy and environment for us touches on resilient energy grid. How do we increase renewable energy, make sure that our power supply is reliable, especially in this age of climate change impacts, especially wildfires. We do a fair amount of work on water supply issues, make sure it's reliable and safe to drink, not just locally, but across the state. Certainly we want to address the climate crisis, so we do a fair amount at the state and federal level when it comes to pricing and other goals tied to greenhouse gas emissions. Along those lines, we're also working to increase deployment of electric vehicles and charging infrastructure. One other area besides water where I work is on resilience for the Bay, which for us really comes down to rising waters, whether that's sea level rise or flooding along our creeks, and then also water rising around the Bay in our groundwater tables. And now I'll get more into, I guess, my background motivation to be in the sustainability realm. Similar to what Chad and Sarah had mentioned before, for me, I attribute it to my upbringing, whether it was being outdoors, hiking and camping and so forth, or growing up in the LA area. We certainly have plenty of environmental challenges there, whether it's tied to air pollution, water supply that is not very natural. We have a giant LA River that's artificial, concrete. So certainly I was always thinking about, hey, why can't we improve our air, water, so forth, and make sure that everyone is able to enjoy a better quality of life. So that relates to the personality and mindset that I have, which is having high expectations for what we have in society, making sure that that's something that doesn't leave anybody out. I want to continue to pursue improvements in the environmental realm. I think generally I've taken more an analytical approach to that, looking at numbers and process for how we advance sustainability. But also in a more abstract sense, I'm definitely interested in our culture and behavior and how everything fits together. So that can tie into a little bit what Chad and Sarah mentioned before, whether it's certain programs we're pursuing in the region or partnerships we have with other organizations. So that's kind of a background in sustainability for me. When it comes to my education and career journey, I've done basically studies in social science. So in undergrad, I was at UC Berkeley, did a bachelor's in political science, added on some history courses, foreign language courses, and then in grad school, I also received a master's. For me, it was in public policy at the UCLA Luskin School of Public Affairs. I focused on environmental and transportation issues and was able to, at UCLA, take advantage of courses not just in public policy, but also urban and regional planning, law, and then broader environmental sustainability studies that are available there. So I definitely think you all students at San Jose State are in a good place because our California public universities have plenty of awesome resources available to you. When it comes to my career, when I was on campus at Berkeley, you can imagine I definitely became more of an activist. That can certainly happen wherever you are on campus, but Berkeley is no exception to that. So I got involved with issue and electoral campaigns that are either related to the environment or political parties. And that first part of my career, I really learned how to strategize and communicate better. When it comes to other parts of my career since then, I've done some more work in elected officials' offices or on their campaigns. I think one pretty foundational experience for me was interning in the state legislature in Sacramento one summer. So I actually worked for a member of the state legislature who represented an area just about where we are, Paul Fong, if you know him. So I think that sort of experience really helped me to understand, what the inside of policymaking looks like, what kind of institutions we have to make change, and what to be aware of in terms of strategy or other kind of roadblocks there might be to making our world more sustainable. Of course, as part of work that I've done that involves research and analysis of policies, one other experience that I think was pretty valuable was with the LA Mayor's Office. And they have a Office of City Services, which on the surface might not seem relevant to sustainability, but they had a team just focused on infrastructure, whether that's electrical, water, energy. And so that definitely, given the leadership at the City Hall, involved a lot of new and innovative thinking about what sustainability can mean for the city of LA and its operations. And there are, of course, different opportunities I had to research on campus, whether on water policy or carbon neutrality for the university. So I definitely think that when it comes to sustainability, you have a whole range of different opportunities to pursue. At the leadership group, we have internships as part of our coordinator program. Coordinator is just our fancy term for internships. So what we have as part of the coordinator program are opportunities for students and recent graduates to be involved in either our policy work or communications and event work or membership relations work. So if you're a policy coordinator, you're engaged in our advocacy on legislation, other sort of processes at the local, state, and or federal level. We also put on a fair amount of events, so you have the opportunity to apply interpersonal communication skills that way. And certainly we can always use data skills in certain ways too, so happy to talk more about that. We could use potentially another intern this summer. I think electric vehicles is one area where we're always interested to have more candidates. So if you have a passion for that, happy to talk more in that realm. Apart from that, I think I'd point back to what Chad was talking about earlier, the sorts of different tranches of career paths. So I think that's definitely important to keep in mind. You could navigate a fair amount across different sorts of career paths, but just, of course, be mindful that you're trying to leverage skills that you're developing in pursuit of what you want to do on a daily basis. I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Crystal. If anybody is interested in speaking to any of the panelists afterwards, we encourage you to message our host, Debbie, with which panelists you'd like to join in a breakout room. And if you have any questions for any of the panelists overall that any of them could speak to, feel free to shoot them in a message to Debbie as well, and we will take some time after to answer those. Okay, so I'm gonna hand it over to Hannah now. Hannah, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Thank you to everyone, Debbie, Rachel, and all the other presenters. This is really great that you've put this together. So my name is Hannah Greenberg. I'm an environmental specialist, services specialist with the city of San Jose. And I work on programs, or my team works on programs and policies related to energy and green building infrastructure. So in Chad's core knowledge hexagon that was in his slideshow, I fall under the energy section. And I work on a program that encourages and helps large buildings in San Jose to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions through energy reductions, smart or sustainable transportation changes, and behavior change kind of tied into all of that. And my team, I'm on the sustainability and compliance team, or the sustainability and compliance division. It's kind of confusing, but we've got environmental services, and then we do a lot of things, my department, environmental services. So I'm in the sustainability division, and then within that division separates even further, and my team, which is about 10-ish people, we work on, maybe a little less than that, we work on energy and green building, as I said before. And my team works in policy development related to energy use, reduction, electrification, et cetera, and also works on programs to enable engagement and change in the community related to those topics. And we also develop trainings and do a bunch of stuff. So I started out with the city a little over a year ago as an AmeriCorps fellow through AmeriCorps and Climate Corps, which are two separate programs that join together. And I ended up getting hired on full-time. So I've been full-time with the city for about 7 months. And I'll go a little bit more into that in a bit. But before, I will talk a little more about my background and why I got into sustainability. So I am actually originally from Connecticut, and I grew up spending my summers at the beach and in the water. I spent a lot of time at the beach. It's my favorite place still, like one of my favorite places. And I spent a lot of time outdoors. I've always just felt like innately really inspired by the outdoors, kind of the best way to explain it, I guess. And spending time outside has always been really calming and peaceful and just like pure. And I noticed that like whenever I've spent time outdoors, especially when I was younger, I just always feel very rejuvenated after. And my interest in sustainability was definitely inspired by my childhoods on the beach. And I just remember like some of my earliest memories of like developing that interest or would come out of feeling how I would feel when I would like find trash all over the beach. And I felt the constant need to clean up. And as I got older and learned more about global warming and pollution and all of the adverse effects on the planet and human health, I realized sustainability was a cause that I genuinely cared about. So I went to the University of Connecticut and I actually studied psychology and mathematics. There are two areas that I am still really interested in, but I originally thought I wanted to build my career around something psychology centric, and realized towards the end of my college career that that was not a career path I wanted to like focus on solely or pursue. There is a lot of overlap, as I found out, between social sciences and environmental science, but yeah, so I fortunately, when I was in school, got to study abroad, and I took some time off after school to travel abroad, where I volunteered on farms, and those experiences definitely strengthened my relationship with the natural environment and continued to like pique my interest. So at that time, when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, after a lot of self-reflection, I realized that I wanted to work in environmental conservation or sustainability. It was like the one area I recognized I would feel really proud working in and connected to the work I was doing and that I was making a difference. So once I got back from my post-college travels, I started to do a lot of research into the different areas of conservation and sustainability that I was potentially interested in. And because there are so many different areas that you can get into. And as Sarah said, I did a lot of self-teaching, a lot of networking, which I highly recommend, just getting your foot out there, asking people for like to learn more about their careers and for their advice. And I was looking for a lot of volunteer opportunities. And because I didn't have an educational background in environmental studies, it was initially a little hard to find a job right off the bat. I'll be honest with that. But what I ended up doing is applying for AmeriCorps internships. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the program, AmeriCorps is a network of national service programs that address critical community needs. They require various levels of experience, from just a high school degree up to, I guess, an undergraduate degree. But for most programs, you just need to express like a true interest in whatever the internship is focused around. And I really, really recommend AmeriCorps for just getting your foot into the door professionally. They offer programs up to 2 years long, but some of them are like as short as 3 months long. So you get different experiences. So the AmeriCorps fellowship or internship that I ended up getting was also a part of the Climate Corps program, which is initially was a Bay Area organization, but I think they've expanded a little bit, but it's a fellowship program that provides opportunities for emerging climate protection leaders through positions that fall with local governments, nonprofits, for-profit businesses. It really touches all those different bases. And the position I ended up getting was with the city of San Jose, working on energy conservation and efficiency programs. It was 7.5 months long, and I was really lucky and ended up getting hired on full time after the fellowship. I had to go through the whole process, but it definitely helped me like get to where I am right now. So kind of piggybacking off of that, the city of San Jose in our environmental services department, we usually have at least one Climate Corps fellow or Civic Spark fellow, which they're very similar programs. Things are a little bit different right now with all the COVID drama, but so we're not sure yet if we're going to have a Climate Corps or a Civic Spark fellow for the upcoming year. But we are, if folks are interested in potentially pursuing like an internship opportunity or look for professional like opportunities with the city and environmental services, we're thinking about offering some unpaid internships. We don't know what that's going to look like yet, but I'll be sure to like update folks on that when more information comes about. But yeah, I guess just really quickly, a couple of other things that my department does. As I said, I work on energy related topics, but we also have a waste management division, watershed protection division. My colleagues work on compliance related policies, and we've also got, not directly related to environmental sciences, but still you're kind of working in that field, communications division, administration, HR. And we work closely with San Jose Clean Energy, which is a energy supplier or a, not a utility, but they supply energy that is greener, I guess, than your standard utilities energy. So we work closely with them in the green energy realm. And I would be happy to answer any other questions that folks have after the panel.
Thank you so much, Tia. It's really great to hear about AmeriCorps. I know that we've had panelists in previous years that have also gone down that path. And as we're setting up for Tia, feel free to message any questions that you have for the panelists or any breakout room you would like to join if you would like to get to know a panelist a little bit better. So Tia, I think you're unmuted on your phone. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to spotlight that right now. Here you go.
All right. Hi, everybody. This is fun. I like hearing about everyone's different career paths and pulling out some common threads. So my name is Tia Lebharris. I am the Executive Director of External Affairs for the California Water Efficiency Partnership. I'm based in Sacramento. So from my lovely home in Sacramento is where I'm talking to you all. CalWEP is what we call ourselves. We're a nonprofit. We work with over 200 water agencies across the state to maximize urban water use efficiency through developing research, programs and tools, events and networking, and then advocacy here in the Capitol. And so I'll talk a little bit about kind of why sustainability, my career path, and then some opportunities that we have. So I always thought I would be a marine biologist, and hearing, Hannah talk about loving the beach. Me too. I grew up in Southern California. It was always kind of known to me that I was going to do something in the environment, but it took university. I went to UC Santa Cruz to figure out that I was far too social to work in a lab, and I did not want to take organic chemistry. But so I had this moment of kind of feeling lost, of not knowing which way I was going to go. I was driving from Santa Cruz to Carmel through Watsonville, and I saw men in hazmat suits fumigating strawberry soil, and, you know, migrant farm workers nearby, kids nearby. And I was like, there has to be a better way to do this. So I went back to school, I changed my major to sustainable agriculture, and I started studying pesticide reform, only to really find that we have a lot of the solutions to the problems that we face. We're not implementing them. And I think we're not implementing them for a variety of reasons, one of which definitely has to do with organizing and political pressure. Some has to do with just like bureaucracy holding things up. But I knew that I wanted my role and my kind of love of talking to people and outreach and communications, going back to Chad's kind of different tiers, right? I was in that policy communications outreach place. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to go to grad school and I'm going to study how to do this. And as I was applying to grad school, started to make a backup plan, which included taking an internship in San Francisco. And I ended up liking that plan better, and it didn't include debt. So I was like, all right, let's do this. I will note that I graduated in 2009, so right after the recession. So it was a tough time to graduate college, have to get a job, and especially when the job that I chose was an unpaid internship. I was like sleeping on friends' couches, nannying in the evenings, just trying to make my way through the world. But I will say that through all of this, you really set your narrative looking backwards, right? This is that whole, I think Sarah was a perfect example of this, of like, we can look back on our experiences and really weave a story of how it got us to be the best positioned person for what we're doing right now. And I think really taking time to examine your story is really important, especially as you're reaching out for internships, thinking about a career path. So, you know, I actually was not AmeriCorps. I found something called Green Corps and did a field school for environmental organizing. And that got me in working with the Sierra Club and Food and Water Watch. So I was actually a community organizer for about 8 years in Detroit and in California, working on mostly water issues, a lot of anti-fracking campaigns, climate justice. But I was taking on those big corporate fights. How are we going to stop bottled water, right? These big questions that like sometimes feel like you're banging your head against a wall because you're up against just crazy money. And I said, you know, I just need I want to do a little pivot. So I moved into the water solution side of things. Another thread that I saw through all my work was that there was this real lack of knowledge of where our water comes from. People are really disconnected from that. And so I thought to myself, well, who are the people that are telling that story, right? Where are people most connecting with their water? And it's their taps, right? It's when you ask where their water comes from, it comes out of their taps. And water utilities have notoriously been pretty bad at telling their story. They really like to be kind of the silent utility. But they have this opportunity, right? And I think now when we look at California in particular with climate change and drought, and now the new reality of COVID and our growing population, water agencies are really starting to shift and be a little bit more proactive. Not to mention, I think the stat is about 40% of people who work at public water agencies are at retirement age. We call it the silver tsunami. So over the next 5 years, we're going to be seeing a ton of people retiring, and there's a huge need for an influx of new staff. And so my kind of advice around how to get in, one is recognize that you guys, if you're graduating this summer or this fall or whatever, it is going to be tough. I think a lot of agencies, a lot of organizations, a lot of cities are feeling repercussions of COVID. And so don't wait for opportunities to show up. If you see an organization or an agency that you're really interested in, reach out even to reach out to any email address you can find. Share your story, share your passion, share why you want to do this. ask for informational interviews. It's something that I do all the time with folks that come across our radar, and just ask them to sit and ask the same thing that we're talking about now. How did you get to where you are? What advice do you have to offer me? Who else can I talk to? Right? Never leave a conversation without asking who else you can talk to. At CalWet personally, we have like rolling internship opportunities that come up all the time. But right now we have 2 interns that literally came to us, not because we posted a job, but because they found out about us. They reached out and they said, this is what I'm really interested in. And we said, yes, of course we could use that help. That's incredible. One of them we've been able to provide a stipend for. And so it really varies. If you're interested in water and water conservation in particular, I will give a huge plug to Valley Water, located just up from San Jose State. Almost, I would say, a lot of the folks that I work with, a lot of our board members actually started their careers as interns at Valley Water. It's a really big entry point into the water space, into the conservation space, and they run a really, really great program. So I would highly recommend that you can, I just did it before I got on to make sure it was easy. You just Google Santa Clara Valley Water and summer internships. They have a full page with videos and deadlines for applications and all kinds of stuff. So really, I think, recommend that path if you want to work with public agencies. And if you want to work more nonprofits, I recommend the path of just knocking on doors via email. We don't knock on doors anymore. And making sure to share your story, because it is compelling. And with so much that we're facing right now, you and your colleagues and your classmates are really needed. We need folks in the sustainability field. We need folks in the water world. And so know your worth, set your narrative looking backwards, tell your story. Don't be afraid to reach out. And someone said it, but network, I think it was Chad, network. That is the #1 thing you can do. So I will pass it back to the moderators, Rachel and Debbie. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Tia. Now we're going to shift gears a little bit, and I'm going to introduce Kristen Keller from the Career Center. Becca is ready to share your slides. And yeah, if you guys heard anything that you'd like to ask the panelists a little bit more about in the breakout rooms, please send your name and who you're interested in talking to Debbie, our host. Okay, Kristen, go ahead.
Right. Hi, everyone. My name is Kristen Keller. I am a career counselor here at San Jose State, and I specialize in working with students studying health as well as environmental studies. So I'm just thrilled to be here today and so excited by the amount of students and professionals who have showed up to share their stories and get ideas. And it's really inspiring to see how everyone is coming from such different backgrounds, and there are a lot of opportunities out there to intern and volunteer, and I hope you guys have gotten good ideas today. But the purpose of me being here is, if you've been listening in for the last few minutes and writing feverish notes about these companies and who's hiring and how they got started, we want you to know at the Career Center that there is a whole group of us, about 10 of us, who specialize in providing you advice to take these ideas and roll with them, basically. So if you guys could move my slide to the next one. At the Career Center, we work with students, freshmen all the way until they graduate. And actually, we have a new service based on everything going on with COVID. We realize that our students and alumni need help more than ever getting work. So we now serve students that within 1 year after graduation. And during that time, you have access to all of our online services, which I'll do an overview of today, but you also have the ability to schedule one-on-one free appointments with a career counselor to discuss, here's my passion, I love water, I don't know what to do with it, or I'm not sure what companies or nonprofits are out there that could serve. And our job as career counselors is to help you brainstorm and get ideas to make that happen. So the slide is going to show you the different stages that we work with students at San Jose State, and it highlights a couple of our online tools that if you have not been to the Career Center website, I really encourage you to do that. We have so much stuff that you could check out at 2 in the morning when you can't sleep because the world is crazy right now. So just to highlight some of the tools that you have at your services, if you prefer not to meet one-on-one with people, we have quite a few applications, one of which being Focus 2, which is going to help you better assess your interests and your personality. And then it will help you lean towards different majors at San Jose State or different careers that you could eventually go into that would match that personality and those interests. So these are free career assessments, but it also allows you to research different tools or different industries. So that's Focus 2, and you'll find that on the Career Center page. And then the very bottom left of the slide, you'll see our website, sjsu.edu/Career Center. In addition to tools where you can research, we also have an alumni mentor network. It's called SJSU Squared, and it's actually not just San Jose State alumni. It's any of the people who want to give back and provide advice to San Jose State students. So if you've enjoyed listening to the stories and the advice of people today, I'd encourage you to go on to SJSU Squared and search around and see if there's any professionals at a company that you're interested in, or maybe that are just in the field that would be willing to email back and forth with you, have a quick phone call, and provide you with advice. Okay, so that we've got quite a few mentors who are ready and willing to give advice, just like the people that we have here today. The next step is going out there and getting experience. Everyone here today was talking about the importance of volunteering, connecting, and even internships. So the first thing for you to know in the Build Experience section is San Jose State Handshake is our main job board, and this is where you can find jobs, internships, and part-time work, specifically people who want to hire San Jose State students. And some of the internships I've heard about today are on there. So even though we're in COVID, there's a lot of people that are still hiring. So please log in and check out the jobs there. If you are getting serious about the job and the internship search, one thing you need to know in this time of COVID is it's very competitive. And it's also about who you know, right? So you need to be putting your best foot forward. And so we have some applications that will help you do that. The second one in the Build Experience section, it's called VMOC. And San Jose students can actually upload their resume and get instant feedback on the formatting as well as the wording. So this is a tool that's going to allow you to put your best foot forward and make sure you're representing yourself well. If you prefer not to use technology, we also have some great online resources in our resume guide, where you can actually see sample resumes of people from your major and get ideas about how to incorporate your projects and all the research you've been doing at San Jose State. So those are some of the tools. In addition to that, we have got information, our tools on how to improve your interview skills. That's called Big Interview. We also offer a career closet, which has clothing available. So if you do get to a point and you're ready to interview and want to look professional, that's a free service for San Jose State students. We offer a lot of career fairs, which is a great place to meet people, networking, and then we are in the process of transferring those to online events, just like this one. And if you go on Handshake, there's also a lot of different events that, including this one, that you can participate in and just learn from the comfort of your own home. So ultimately, what I want you guys to realize is if this has motivated you, inspired you to go out there and get some experience, or you're just feeling like, man, I hope to be in these people's shoes someday. The Career Center is here and ready to meet with you to help you make those ideas a reality. We all are working online virtually during this time. We have over 10 career counselors who have appointments Monday through Friday where you can meet with us online and we can brainstorm, review your resume, share job search tips, or help you figure out like what major is the right thing for you based on your interests. So I will be in a breakout room today if you'd like to have any individual questions, but I hope you visit our website at sjsu.edu/career center to really understand all the things that you have at your fingertips while you're a San Jose State student and for the year after you graduate. So thank you for everyone who has participated today and shared stories and inspiration. We've got a whole room here of people who are making the world a better place. So I look forward to working with you. So that's it at my end. And Rachel, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you so much, Kristen. Now I have some questions that the panelists, or not the panelists, the students have asked me to ask the panelists. Sorry about that mix up. One big one that we got in a few different forms was, how do you guys suggest that people who are graduating network virtually at this time? Are there maybe some professional network societies or different things that you would suggest or are a part of? If any of the panelists want to raise their hands, I can go ahead or unmute you, or one of our co-hosts can. Okay, Christoph.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rachel, and thanks, Spartans, for those questions. So in terms of virtual networking, I would say LinkedIn has definitely been a valuable tool for me. So really developing your profile, looking up folks who are associated with either the school where you are now and they graduated from there, or they're working at organizations that you're interested in. So trying to find those second degree connections, that's especially helpful. And not just sending a generic connect kind of invitation, but personalizing a note too. You can have the option of doing that. So you just say, hey, I'm interested in this. Would you like to connect and talk? Recommend that. And there are, of course, plenty of events going on too, virtually. I didn't mention before, but there's an Energy and Sustainability Summit that the leadership group puts on every summer. So if you'd be interested in being part of that, please let me know. I'm happy to help you attend then. And we're trying to have networking as part of our conference.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's go to Hannah now. Sorry, I called you Tia earlier. I just got really excited for our next.
That's fine. No worries. Yeah, just I guess I'll piggyback off of what Christoph said. LinkedIn is a great tool. I don't know, depending on like where you're at with your with how you've built up your LinkedIn profile thus far, or if you don't have one yet, looking for secondary degree connections. So people that like are connected to some of your connections. But regardless of that, like if you don't have a LinkedIn profile yet, search the organizations or the career fields that you're interested in, or look on the San Jose State school page, and don't be afraid to message professionals. If they're from San Jose State and they see that you're from San Jose State and you're like interested in what they do, like I feel like 99% of people would be happy to receive a message from an interested young professional, and people love to talk about what they do and provide advice. So don't be afraid to just reach out and like cold call folks. And aside from LinkedIn, I also wanted to say, like, if there's an organization or a company that you find through research, or that you're interested in learning more about, and like just want to talk to someone from there, feel free to, I think someone might have mentioned this before, but like email whatever email they have on their webpage. And like say that you're someone that's interested in learning more about the organization, and see if they would be willing to connect you with a colleague there. And also doing the same thing on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn's like a great tool. So definitely heavily utilize that.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's move on to Sarah.
Y'all can hear me now? Yeah, okay. I don't want to repeat what Christoph and Hannah said, and I think it was really great advice. The only thing I would add on is I think when you're cold emailing someone, you should have conversations with folks, see if you can set up a phone call or something, or like a Zoom hangout type of meeting to kind of talk to them and pick their brain. And I would encourage you, when you find someone that you like where they are, like their journey, it sounds similar to yours, I think you can ask them to be your mentor. And that is an exciting way for you to kind of get one-on-one help with someone that's either in the field that you want to go into or has a similar trajectory as the one that you see yourself in. And people are moving more and more towards virtual stuff. So I have been on 1 million virtual things in the past 4 weeks, and I'm sure I'll be on 2 million of them in the next 3 weeks. So I think there will be increasingly even virtual networking, mixer, type stuff. And there's always panels and stuff like this, where if you go onto it virtually, you kind of have that, hey, I attended your panel, blah, blah, blah. So just immersing yourself more in that. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you. Okay, quickly, we'll do Tia and then Chad and see if we can squeeze in some time for breakout rooms. So Tia, you're spotlighted and unmuted.
I will be really quick, and just because everything that everyone said, I'll also flag that Twitter is a great place for connecting with folks and in a different kind of more conversational way, and like responding and liking and retweeting and all that good stuff. But the one thing I wanted to say was, now more than ever, like good email etiquette is important, right? The difference between getting an email with no subject line and like a, hey, what's up, how's it going, I want to know, versus like a professional email. I mean, yes, I can't stress that enough. Just like really put time into crafting a good email. Don't make it too crazy and long. Put your ask at the top. What are you looking for? And yeah, do it often. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Chad.
I'm going to reinforce some of the things people said. First of all, there's no one size fits all. You'll have to find out how to connect with different people, and don't get discouraged if people don't respond, and don't feel bad asking people twice. I think it is helpful to show up with some sense of what you're there to ask the person about. So I think Tia's point about that is really good. And I think that flattery isn't a bad thing. Be genuine about it, but be flattering. To pick up on one of Hannah's points, she didn't exactly say this, but going outside your normal network is often a good way to go. There's a piece of literature that I really like from the 1970s. The title of it is The Strength of Weak Ties, and it specifically studied how people's success in networking for jobs was linked to how far outside their networks, normal networks they went, and the farther outside people's normal networks they went, the better they got job leads. So do that. I think that, and this I think partially circles back with someone else's point now, but I've forgotten who. I would attend a virtual conference, particularly one you can go to for free. Talk to people in the chat rooms, learn a little bit more about what they do. It's a very easy entree to say, we're at this conference together. I listened to you on this panel. And there are lots of trade associations out there, from the Air and Waste Management Association, the California Resource Recovery Association is another one, and the list can go on and on. I think any of the panels could probably point to a few. And these will likely be virtual and free. So it's a really good way to do it. I also, maybe just one last point, want to say, I think unfortunately we're sailing into a pretty strong headwind, and I think you all will be asked by the world to be more resilient and to have to persevere for longer. So take care of yourself and really try to figure out how to make this fun for yourself so that you can continue doing it, because it may take a while.
Thank you so much, Chad. I am going to ask quickly, Kristen Keller, if you want to add anything from the Career Center side. All the panelists made great points, but if you have any other resources that you'd like to add.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And all of you panelists, man, you are so right on. I need you like in my ear every day. This is fantastic. Some of you guys might have noticed I did add a couple of our Career Center resources. I linked them in the chat. I hope you'll check them out. So some of the things that the advice has been given, some of those tips are similar and online and will help you dive more into it. The first one, it's called SJSU's Job and Internship Guide. It's all of our best tips. It talks a lot about how to network effectively online, how to use LinkedIn, or even how to just get started. So the Job and Internship Guide is linked on there. Saying the right thing and making connections to people you don't know, it's a little bit intimidating. One of my favorite resources, it's free. It's also linked in the comments. It's called mangoconnects.com. And it actually walks you through the process of who do you want to reach out to? How do you know them? What might you have in common with them? And it helps you develop these really short, personalized emails so that you can get more likelihood of getting an informational interview or meet more people like Chad and Sarah and so on. So lots of these resources are available online. And like I said, there's also SJSU Squared, which you will find, it's our mentoring app that has a lot of similar tools and will connect you directly with professionals. So if you'd like personalized advice, just make sure to hit me up over in my breakout room and I'd love to chat more.
Thank you so much, Kristen. That concludes this portion of our Green Career panel.